All right, everyone, we have more election interference, and this time by the DOJ and Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland filing suit against the state of Virginia for its non-citizen voter roll removal process. The problem is, if you look at the actual process, you can't possibly conceive of this as being unconstitutional. Basically, when somebody goes and registers at the Department of Motor Vehicles as a non-citizen, they simply check the name against the rolls. They remove it from the rolls if after 14 days the person hasn't affirmed that they're a citizen and shown that they are. Because of course you can have two people with the same name, or you can have a mistake, a glitch in the system, something like that. It's an individualized approach. Garland is creating the speculative notion that it's a sweeping approach. I would point out this law did not originate with Glenn Youngkin. It originates actually with Tim Kaine. You'll remember him as Hillary Clinton's running mate back in 2006. So we're talking a very long time ago, 18 years, and yet despite this, there was never any suit filed until a few weeks before the election. I'm sure that timing, by the way, is entirely coincidental. Now, what this is a rushed attempt by Merrick Garland to keep non-citizens on the voter rolls in Virginia in order to add a few thousand extra votes. They're just trying to shore up that blue wall any way they can at this point. It's blatantly partisan. I mean, again, the timing is similar to the timing of the lawsuits against Trump. Well, you know, he's about to throw his hat in the ring and everything, and the election starts heating up, and all of a sudden he gets sued by all of these different entities, including over cases that are literally years old. Now, it's not uncommon for there to be a gap between a potential crime being committed and the crime, unless it's completely acute and situationally, to gather evidence to say, okay, well, we need to make sure that this fairly significant case of fraud or something, you know, multiple counts, is actually ironclad. We need to have the evidence, you know, before him, otherwise it's going to be hard to justify it. In this particular case, though, okay, you've had all of the time that Merrick Garland has been AG, plus all of the prior AGs since 2006, and none of them had a problem with it. Up until now, 2 weeks before the election. All of a sudden, now it's unlawful. This is not coincidental timing. It's also not coincidental that it would be the state of Virginia. We're looking at polling that shows that Trump has a measurable chance of winning the state of Virginia. If they think that it's going to come down to 10,000 votes in either direction, it makes sense that Merrick Garland would file this now, in order to make sure that there are at least a handful of those non-citizens that remain eligible to vote. Because who do you think that they're going to vote for? The dude who says he wants to deport 1 million people? Or the chick that says, you know, the border's Swiss cheese, and that's fine as borders are, I did literally nothing, everyone can come in, give us your huddled masses, and, you know, you can take over apartment complexes with your gang buddies and stuff like that. They're going to vote for the latter, generally speaking. I'm going to vote for Trump. Yes, yes, Pablo over here, he voted for the dude who claims he wants to deport him. That would make a whole lot of sense. And these individuals have been heavily targeted by left-wing advocacy groups, by the way, as well, with propaganda telling them that Trump is basically going to jackboot the troops through the streets going door to door to eradicate these people. Well, you're going to be put on a list, there's going to be shots fired, we're going to march you across the border, we're going to deport you maybe to a country you don't even belong to. It's a fear campaign, basically, that we see from the left right now. It's a fear campaign. Hell, 1 million, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the number of people who are illegally in the United States anyway. Does it help to release a little bit of that steam pressure off of the population's social alienation and the inherent economic problem of having to take care of over 10 million people illegally in your country who, generally speaking, aren't working? Yeah, of course. In some states, you're getting all sorts of freebies. You get a lot more assistance than a native-born citizen, that's for sure. It would be great in some states if you had free food, the Obama phone, as they colloquially term it, monthly stipend, sometimes a one-time payout, free housing or subsidized housing. Hey, you can get a car, you can get a job, you can do basically whatever you want. You have all the rights of a citizen other than you can vote. Garland is trying to ensure that even that is a right of non-citizens. It self-evidently isn't. The reason why Virginia is specifically singled out, and the reason for the timing, is solely because of the election. And for no other reason. Again, Garland had years to file suit against the state of Virginia, knowing that this law was in place. and it was codified and by Glenn Youngkin by executive order, affirming that this law would remain in sway. Which isn't even really necessary because, you know, what's he going to do? Sign an executive order saying, well, I believe this to be unlawful, so we're nixing it. It's not exactly the way that gubernatorial power works, at least not in most states. Depends on the state. If it's a blue state governor, you know, if it's a Democrat, then for some reason they gain almost godlike power. But in the state of Virginia, this particular system is not particularly bizarre. I mean, it makes sense. You're saying that you're a non-citizen. You're signing up for some sort of ID, okay, or whatever. We're simply checking you against the voter rolls. If we find that that name is on the voter rolls, we query that individual at their address and say, look, there might be a mix-up with names. You know, there's 500 Fred Gonzalez's living in Virginia, and one person signs up and says, well, you know, I'm not actually a citizen. I'm just a resident or something. They get a car or whatever, they're getting their driver's license. They simply query those individuals, and they have 14 days to respond from the postmark date, which, by the way, how many days until the election? Oh, again, it's entirely coincidental. Lining up a little bit too perfectly for me. No, it's quite clear that this is political in nature. It can't possibly be otherwise. This sort of coincidence does not happen within politics. The timing is far too apt. It's far too close. We're talking about a gap of a couple of days between election and filing. Yeah, that's a coincidence. That's about all. Peace out.